Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA players, legends, and top instructors share their stories, insights, and playing lessons. Join Chris every Tuesday night as he talks with the greats of the game. Tonight's show is sponsored by the French Lick Resort, the PGA Tour Superstore, TaylorMade Golf, the Bobby Jones Apparel Company, 2 Under, Ben Hogan Golf, Golf Pride, Srixon and their Z-Star Golf Balls, and the Sandiston Resort. Now here is your host, Chris Mascaro.
Good evening, folks. Boy, it sure is great having you with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. We really appreciate the fact that you continue to make this show a part of your golfing content. Tonight, I've got 2 more of the top instructors in the game that I'm going to have with me tonight. We'll share some of their tips and their insights and playing lessons and everything designed right to help us all hit better golf shots. So looking forward to that part of the show. We're going to talk specifically about directional issues, right? Correcting the slice that we have, and then what do we do when we slice? And we all of a sudden start doing the opposite, right? We're pull hooking the ball to overcompensate. So how do we fix both of those things? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the mental side of the game. We do that a lot here on the show. We're going to talk about specifically how to better deal with playing pressure. So I'd like to talk about that piece. I'm also going to get inside the mind, if you will, of Bernhard Langer, from the man who was on his bag for several years. So a lot more great information and stories coming your way tonight on Next on the Tee. My first guest tonight is a really great friend of the show, become a really wonderful part of the show over the last several years, and that's Jason Hase. Jason is the director of golf out at Buffalo Dunes Golf Course in Garden City, Kansas. He's also one of the most highly decorated instructors in that area of the country, northern Texas, Kansas, that part of the country. I'm going to talk to Jason about his junior golf program. He's got one of his junior players about to go off into the drive, chip, and putt contest, try to get to Augusta National next year, so want to hear that story. He's also got a Symetra Tour event coming up at Buffalo Dunes in early September, and you know we're a big fan of that tour. Our good friend Nat Sherry probably going to be in the field there, so want to talk about that. And like I say, want to get Jason's thoughts on how do we fix our slice, and then how do we stop from overcompensating and pull hooking the ball. So really looking forward to having Jason back as part of the show. He'll join me in just a few minutes. Following him, I'm going to be joined by another one of the top instructors, this time in the state of Illinois during the summer, in Arizona in the winter, and that's Shane LeBaron. Shane is a level 3 Plain Truth certified instructor, just like a couple of other good friends here on the show. Our friend Andy Trainer, who joined us a couple of weeks ago, and then Kevin Roman, who's also become a wonderful friend. He was on not that long ago as well. I want to talk to Shane about the Plain Truth swing methodology, right? We talked a little bit about that with Andy, but how does that mesh with today's world where we're talking about, swing your swing, right? So how does the Plain Truth methodology for swing instruction kind of mesh up with swing your own swing? We'll get Shane's thoughts about that. Also want to talk about, he's the one I'm going to talk about the mental side of the game and how he prepares his students to deal with playing pressure. So really excited to have Shane as part of the show. Tonight's going to be his first time with me, so he'll join me a little bit later on in this half hour. And then we're going to round out tonight's show with a return visit from Caddy for a Cure founder, Russ Holden. Russ was a PGA Tour caddy for many years, on the bag for Bernhard Langer for most of that time. Interested in getting Russ's take on Langer's win this past weekend at the Senior Open Championship. Unbelievable, right? You look at Bernhard Langer, the guy's almost 62 years old. He'll become 62 in just a few weeks, yet he continues to go out and dominate on the Champions Tour. Want to get Russ's take on that. We'll also talk about the great things that he continues to do for our wounded military veterans through Caddy for a Cure. So it's always great having Russ on the show, and they continue to do great things over there. So looking forward to catching up with him about 45 minutes from now. So there you have it, folks. More great stories and playing lessons coming your way tonight on this edition of Next on the Tee. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me tonight. Before we get started, I always like to remind you about my good friend Mitch Lawrence and his podcast, Talking Golf Getaways. He and his co-host, Darren Bunch, they let you know about the great places to stay, play, and even eat and drink around the country with respect to the golf courses, right? You can find their podcast over on golftripx.com, and that's a letter X, so golftripx.com. Also available on Audio Boom, Stitcher, and Player.fm. Go there, check out their show, and as I say, learn about some of the hidden gems, some of the great courses around the country that you can go stay and play at. His twin brother Matthew also has a great golf show. It's called Backspin Golf, and that show airs Sunday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time on WLXG ESPN Radio, AM 1300 up in Lexington, Kentucky. You can stream it online by going to WLXG.com or do what I did, which is download the WLXG app and stream it on your smartphone. The show is a lot of fun because Matthew's a lot of fun. He makes that show so much fun to listen to, and he's got great guests on the show with him every single week. It's a great way to kick off your Sunday mornings. Again, the name of the show is Backspin Golf, and you can stream it online on WLXG.com or on the WLXG app. And folks, as you know, we are sponsored by the French Lick Resort. Let's hear a word from Steve Rondonero about what they've got going on up there.
It's a Pete Dye masterpiece, the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort. Pete says its location on one of the highest points in Indiana makes it special.
The long views, you can see maybe 20 and 30 miles from many of the fairways and many of the tees and greens, and you can see it in 360 degrees.
Donald Ross's Hill Course put French Lick on the golf map more than 100 years ago. It's where Walter Hagen won the 1924 PGA Championship, and the place where today's Symetra Tour ladies battle each year.
It's the ambience around it that makes the golf course.
Combine our many resort amenities with legendary golf, and you have a getaway like no other. French Lick Resort is the home of the Senior LPGA Championship, won in 2018 by World Golf Hall of Famer Laura Davies. Play the courses champions play. Plan your trip now, online at FrenchLick.com.
Yeah, folks, be sure to go online to FrenchLick.com to see for yourself what a wonderful place they have up there, and you'll be able to book your stay there as well. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at TaylorMade, and boy, they have done great things again this year with their drivers. The TaylorMade M5 and M6 drivers are a tremendous story. They both feature speed-injected twist face, created through a revolutionary manufacturing process where every single head, and I do mean, folks, every single head is injected and calibrated to the threshold of the legal limit. So basically, every head is made to be tour spicy. So speed for all. Check them out online by going to TaylorMadeGolf.com. Please also check out our friends at the Bobby Jones Apparel Company by going online to BobbyJones.com. They've got their semi-annual sales event going on right now. Savings of up to 50% on some items. In fact, their best-selling performance polo shirts are now up to 60% off. See for yourself what a great line of polo shirts and men's and women's apparel that they have by going online to BobbyJones.com. All right, now back with me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is Jason Hase, and let me remind you about Jason's background. He's from Tucumcari, New Mexico. He attended the New Mexico Military Institute in Roswell, New Mexico. He earned a certification as a PGA professional from the PGA of America back in 1998. He's been the vice president of the Northern Texas PGA section since 2016. He also served as the president of the Northern Texas PGA West chapter in 2012 and 13. Jason has been recognized with several awards, including the Bill Strasberg Award, which is a top honor given by the Northern Texas PGA West chapter. He also won that award in 2005, 2007, 2008, and 2016. He was the chapter's Golf Professional of the Year in 2011, 12, and 13, and Teacher of the Year in 2009 and 10. He was also the Merchandiser of the Year for private clubs in the Northern Texas PGA West chapter in 2004 and 6. He was the Manager of the Year in 1998 for Four Star Golf Corporation while at Scott Park when he won the Northern Texas PGA Western Championship in 2010. He's helped start up the golf program at places like Angelo State University, which is a Division II school, and he helped get that program to national prominence in only their second year of existence. He's been the director of golf at clubs like Fair Oaks Country Club, San Angelo Country Club, and now Buffalo Dunes Golf Course in Garden City, Kansas. And I'm very honored he is back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Jason, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure coming back and visiting with you.
I appreciate you. So, Jason, I want to start our time tonight, and you do such great work with players of all ages, but I really want to start off by focusing on your junior golfers. I saw that you've got an interesting program called Parents and Putting for players 10 and under. So talk about that program and the things you're doing junior golf-wise there at Buffalo Dunes.
You know, our Parents and Putting is something that we've kind of started. We set up a little putting course, obstacle course. We've had kids from 3 to 9 come out this summer, and we just kind of make it fun for them. We get the parents involved. It's kind of our on-ramp to getting the kids hooked on golf, and it's done well for us. We probably could have done a little bit better job of this summer. We've been busy. Junior golf has been we've had lots of stuff going on with our PGA Junior League team. It's in its second year up here. Our local high school coach, his name is Trent Speck. We've got some. We have about 15 to 20 kids that come out a couple times a week to practice to keep them kind of going through the summer. So we're staying pretty busy. That with everything else we've been doing, it's been a good summer.
And Jason, I know you've got one of your junior golfers that's getting ready to compete up there to try to qualify for the drive, chip, and putt in Augusta National. Talk about who that young player is.
So we've got a young man. This will be his second time to. His name is Braden Walters. He's a great, just a great young man. He's 9. Last year he made it all the way to Houston. To the Woodlands Country Club. Didn't fare so well, but he's going back to the regional tournament in Tulsa on Thursday. And I actually got to spend quite a bit of time with him this afternoon, just working on routine and trying to use pre-shot routine and some different keys to kind of battle through the mental side of that. So.
And that's a great point, Jason, because that's going to be my next question. For a young man or even young girl, right, 9 years old, all of a sudden now you're competing on a regional and hopefully a national level once they get all the way to Augusta National in the drive, chip, and putt. How do you keep them from getting too nervous and let all those sort of nerves get to them so it takes them off their game? Is there something you're teaching your young players, particularly this young man, to how to calm his nerves and stay in the moment?
It's nothing new. We really focus on routine. We want to try to make his pre-shot routine and what he does as consistent as possible every time he hits the golf ball, chips the ball, putts the ball. His tendency is to get a little quick, and so we really work on trying to slow him down and trying to keep him a little more focused and focus more on the routine, not so much what he's going to do after his routine, when he's getting ready to hit the shot. For him, it's, I've got to do this routine. I've got so much amount of time to do it in. And once he kind of gets in that rhythm or gets going, it's amazing how well his shot and how well he responds to that.
And Jason, when you're working with your junior players, is there something that you do to, help them sort of celebrate the small wins, whether it's they've hit a good shot, maybe they've made a great putt, those sorts of things to kind of keep them energized, keep them engaged, and keep them excited about playing? One of the things I try to do is we very rarely focus on a bad shot. If we're in here in the teaching studio and we're hitting balls and we hit a squirrely one, I just call it what it is. It's a bad shot. Now, if we're working on some pitching or we've got some little targets that we stick out that are mobile and, we're hitting 40, 50, 60-yard pitch shots and they hit one, we're going to celebrate that. It's a big deal. I want them to get excited. I mean, it's an accomplishment to hit a golf ball 60 yards and hit a target that's 3 feet wide. And so, I mean, I want to make it fun for them. I don't want them to feel like they're out here hitting golf balls. And, we work on a lot of different motions too. We don't just hit a lot of golf balls. We're using alignment sticks and hitting impact bags, and we're on wobble boards and skateboards, and we're throwing golf balls, and we're trying to make the golf swing as dynamic a motion as, pitching a baseball,
swinging a pickaxe handle, just different things like that.
And Jason, nowadays we hear the mantra a lot about, swing your swing, right? We see so many, unconventional swings on the tour now, and that's not all that different from when you're looking back over the last several decades of guys and gals have their own sort of unique swing about it. Do you teach the classical swing, or how much individuality do you let particularly your junior golfers have regarding what their swing looks like?
No, we focus on posture, alignment, grip, all the basic fundamentals. But I always like to take whatever athleticism they have and have them make it as athletic golf swing as possible. Whether they get it laid off across the line, as long as we get it back to the bottom and impact in a good position, we're going to be pretty solid. The classic golf swing is great, but there's some people that don't do it, and there's some people that are not doing it right now that are becoming pretty successful.
And Jason, I have to imagine when you're watching these kids and they're hitting the ball well, it's got to be pretty rewarding for you as an instructor. Do the kids ever come back to you and talk to you about, your teaching and what they enjoy most about the game and why they, continue to want to come and be a part of your junior program? They ever kind of give you that, gee, coach, you're great at this, and it's something that really sticks out for you and it makes you feel good about the things that you're doing to help grow the game?
That does happen. And the one word that they always use is we have fun. It's, taking a golf lesson should be an experience. It shouldn't be like going to getting your immunizations at the doctor's office. It should be fun. And that's how we do it. I just like to make it fun. We use all different types of things. Like I said, pickaxe handles, alignment rods, brooms, balls. It's always fun to look at different instructors and how they use different equipment, different ways. And I'm always trying to make myself a better teacher by, understanding the biomechanics of the golf swing, but also how to relate that to a junior golfer or a lady or, a better player. So.
And Jason, moving on to, let's talk about some of your adult students and something that you kind of mentioned a moment ago, for folks that have athletic swings and trying to, cater to that. But as you start to have students that are senior golfers, guys like me who are 50s and above, 60s, 70s. A lot of times we've had injuries in our lives. A lot of times we're dealing with arthritis and other things. For those of us that maybe have some swing limitation, how do you help us, kind of at least get strike the ball where we need to strike it in the center of the face if we're dealing with old injuries and maybe we can't get back to parallel anymore on our backswings? How do you help the senior player get the most out of his or her game?
Everybody can move, can pivot, they can pick their feet up and kind of get that motion going. Obviously, some people are going to be a little more limited with knees and hips and stuff. But if, say, I've got somebody that can't really turn onto their right side, I may have them drop that right foot back and open that toe up a little bit where it does allow them to feel like they've got a little bit of a pivot. And then we really, really work hard on trying to get everything moving in the right direction, moving towards the target, not kind of hanging back. And there's lots of drills that you can do. And it really doesn't matter, at least in my opinion, it doesn't matter at what age you are. If you can take your athleticism and get that sequencing down correctly, you're going to hit the ball better. You may not hit it as far as you want, but at least you're going to hit it solid. You're going to keep it in play, and you're going to enjoy the game a little bit more.
Jason, for those of us who are struggling with directional issues, let's say if we're slicing the ball to the right into the trees, or we're overcompensating and we're pull hooking the ball to the left, what are some things that we can do to fix those issues?
You know, the first thing I'd tell you is to make sure you're pointed where you think you're pointed. A lot of times, right-handed golfers will come over the top of it or pull it left because they're aimed a lot further right than they think they are. And it's pretty easy to throw an alignment stick down on the ground and make sure you're pointed exactly where you think you're pointed. That in itself fixes a lot of things. It you know, when you're square or your shoulders, hips, and feet are all pointed in the same direction, it's amazing what you can accomplish. Whether you want to try to swing from the inside out a little bit, or I mean, that's the first thing. The next thing is just making sure we're not swinging from the shoulders, so to speak. We're going to have a little more, I like to call them Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, where we're going to hinge at the elbows a little bit more. I don't think people hinge at the elbows correctly a lot of times, and it's amazing. You kind of get somebody to understand as they pivot back that right elbow, how it will fold, and you can really sync up the arms and the body and change the direction of the pass of the golf club. And there's hundreds of thousands of ways to swing the club. It's just, if we can get you back into impact square with the ability that you've got, it's going to make the game more fun.
Jason, how about those of us that are chunking our iron shots? If we're hitting it fat consistently over and over and over again, what's something that we can do to make sure we're making better contact, hitting it clean and crisp, as opposed to hitting behind the ball?
Again, I think that can go back to bad alignment. Also, ball position has a lot to do with that. If your golf ball is not centered or a little left of center for just your normal stock shot, and you're not rotating to the target or moving to the target, so to speak, to help kind of shallow the club out a little bit, you can chunk it. So we spend a lot of time trying to take a medicine ball and throwing it like you're making a golf swing. The other thing I like to use is I've got a couple of really long broom handles, and the longer the length, it just promotes you to swing a little more around yourself, and it helps kind of shallow out the club. It gives you a little bit better feel. Something else we do is I'll have the player, we've got a few places on the golf course where the ball can be above their feet. And again, you start working with that golf swing with the ball above their feet, tends to shallow it out a little bit, and we don't get quite as steep coming into impact.
And you mentioned ball position, Jason. Are you a proponent of roughly the same ball position, or do you like the ball position to start moving back in our stance as we get, from the high, the 4 or 5 iron, maybe a little further back on the, 7, 8 iron, and a little further back on the pitch and wedge? Or do you prefer that ball position always to be towards our left heel?
There's the two schools of thought are start in the middle and move forward as the golf club gets longer, or off the left heel. I like either one of them. One of them is going to be optimal to the student you're teaching, and so I like both of them. It just depends on who I've got and where they feel comfortable the most.
Jason, switching gears a little bit, you've got the Garden City Charity Classic on the Symetra Tour coming there to Buffalo Dunes the first week of September. How are things going in preparation for that event?
They are in full swing. The community here in Garden City and surrounding areas, Dodge City, Liberal, everybody just gets behind that event. It's one of probably the biggest sporting event in this part of the world. We've got all those ladies that come in and spend a week with us, and we're very proud to have that tournament and be associated with the Symetra Tour.
What kind of crowds do you typically get for that event?
You know, it just depends on the weather. Last year, crowds were down a little bit because it was a little cooler. But it just all depends on the weather. I mean, first part of September in Southwest Kansas, it could be 85 and perfect, or it could be 55 and blowing. So we have the amount of volunteers that we have that volunteer and then stick around, and we'll get 400 or 500 people a day that come out, it's just a great event. We have a big party with all the ladies and sponsors, and then it's just fun. One of the things we did last year, I think we talked about it a little bit last year, probably about this time, is the charity that we had didn't quite fit what we were trying to do, and so there's 11 area lady high school golf programs in Southwest Kansas. Those actually became the charity, and we wrote about $22,000 worth of checks to the high school programs to help improve girls golf in Southwest Kansas. One of the things that we did is we had about 70 high school girls show up Wednesday after our Pro-Am. We had about 35 to 40 Symetra Tour players, and it was kind of like watching a junior high dance. The Symetra girls were on one side, the high school girls were on the other side, and we kind of had to help get them together. And once we got them together, it was just kind of crazy. The girls were asking questions about playing college golf and what's it like to play on the tour and what's travel like. The girls helped the ladies with their golf swings and chipping and putting. We didn't quite know what it would look like when we did it, but it was a home run, and we're looking forward to doing that again. So.
That's great. Jason, just a couple more before I let you go. I saw that you guys are trying to raise some funds for a new clubhouse there at Buffalo Dunes. Talk about that effort.
So we created an organization called Friends of Buffalo Dunes. It's a private nonprofit to help raise money for a new clubhouse. It's going to kind of be a public-private team effort. The clubhouse that we have is really outdated. It actually looks like a Pizza Hut, and there's just not a lot of space, and the space we do have is not utilized real well. So we've got plans to build a new clubhouse. We're actually fixing to present some stuff to our city commission here, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months, on where we want to do it, how it's going to look, all that stuff. So it's much needed. We have very limited restroom space. When we have a 100-player scramble or fundraising event, and everybody's in the golf shop and the clubhouse after play, and then we're trying to check other play in. It's really crowded. You get to know your neighbor pretty well. And we just need a little more space. We've outgrown what we've got, and we're looking forward to getting this ball rolling. And again, the community, the Garden City and surrounding areas are, they're pretty generous, and it's going to be fun to kind of see this project come to fruition.
Jason, for any of our listeners who might want to get involved and help out, is there a way for them to get in touch either with you, with the golf course, or a website they can go to get more information and be a part of it?
I would say probably the best thing right now would be to holler at me. They can reach me at my email address, or they can call the golf shop. My email address is jason.hase, Hase, at gardencityks.us. And the number to the shop is 276 1221 is my direct line. And then, there's the Friends of Buffalo Dunes Facebook page, or just, the City of Garden City website.
Jason, let our listeners know. Remind them again how they can stay up to date with all the great things that you do, whether it's online or it's on social media.
They can follow me on Instagram at Hase PGA. You can find me on Twitter. I believe it's PGA J Hase. You can follow me on Facebook. Those three social media entities are fantastic, and it's amazing the stuff that you can accomplish using those.
Well, Jason, it's always a pleasure having you as part of the show. Thank you for coming back and joining me again tonight. I hope you'll come back and update us on how things are going out there and how the event goes on from the Symetra Tour as well. But I can't thank you enough for being here again tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you as always. It's a pleasure. Appreciate what you do for golf and all things golf related. And next time you talk to Natalie Sheary, tell her I said hello, and we'll see her in about 3 or 4 weeks. So we'll get her a caddy lined up, and it's always good to have her back in Garden. So
I'll absolutely pass that along. She's one of my favorites. So look forward to hearing all about that and getting her back out there and getting you back on the show again real soon, Jason. All the best to you and your family.
Yes,
we'll catch up soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, Jason. Take care. That's
Bye-bye.
Jason Hase. Hase is the spelling of his last name, and doing great things out there at Buffalo Dunes. Get involved. Friends of Buffalo Dunes. Check him out on Facebook and see how you can help that great cause, and look forward to getting Jason back on the show again real soon, hopefully catching up after the Symetra Tour event, hear how that went, and maybe we can get him on the same time as our good friend Natalie Sheary. So thanks to Jason. Look forward to having him back. All right, before I get to my next guest, Shane LeBaron, I want to remind you about a few of our sponsors. First, please be sure to check out our friends at the Ben Hogan Golf Equipment Company. Folks, if you haven't hit Ben Hogan irons since maybe the 80s or the 90s, do yourself a favor. Get a demo iron of either their Fort Worth, PTX, new PTX Pro, which comes in black now as well, and I love the finish on those irons. Or check out their Edge irons as well. Take them out on the range. You can actually get one of their demo irons, and they've got a demo program. So go on their website, benhogangolf.com, and get one of those demos and take it out and compare it to whatever it is you've got in your bag. Ben Hogan irons and wedges are all handcrafted one at a time in their Fort Worth, Texas factory. So that means no mass production, no shortcuts. And now you can order custom-made irons, wedges, and hybrids by going online to benhogangolf.com. And they're going to build those clubs to your specifications. And best of all, charge you a fraction of the typical retail price. Again, check out their complete line of forged irons, wedges, utility irons, hybrids, bags, and accessories, and their new GS53 driver and fairway woods, which look absolutely fantastic. I'm reading great reviews about them online. See for yourself at benhogangolf.com. And folks, this segment of the show is sponsored by our friends at the PGA Tour Superstore.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
And now joining me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is Shane LeBaron. Let me give you some background on Shane. He is from Lincoln, Nebraska, played his college golf at both Oklahoma State and Methodist College in Fayetteville, North Carolina. After college, he played out on the mini tours for a bit before deciding teaching was really where his heart was at. He became the assistant golf professional at Blue Hills Country Club in Kansas City in 1998, where he learned under PGA Hall of Fame instructor Stan Thirsk. From there, he moved on to become the lead instructor at Shadow Glen Golf Club in Kansas. 2002, he moved over to Hilton Head, South Carolina, where he worked as an instructor at both Moss Creek Golf Club and Belfair Golf Club. He later opened his own golf school at Old South Golf Club in Bluffton, South Carolina, became the college golf coach at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort back in 2011. In 2012, he became the director of instruction at the Plain Truth Performance Center there in Wigwam Resort in Phoenix, Arizona. Like our friends Andy Trainer and Kevin Roman, Shane is a level 3 Plain Truth certified instructor. now spends his summer as a director of instruction at Knollwood Country Club up in Lake Forest, Illinois during the summers, and then goes back to Phoenix to teach in the winters. He's been nominated a few times by Golf Magazine as one of their top 100 instructors. Golf Digest voted him one of the best teachers in the state of Arizona back in 2013. Golf Digest has also nominated him twice as one of the best instructors under the age of 40. He's a Callaway Golf Master Staff Professional, and I'm honored he is here with me tonight on Next on the Tee. Hey, Shane, thanks for coming on the show.
Chris, thanks for having me on. How are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Shane? Talk to me about what's going on out in your neck of the woods.
We're teaching some golf.
That's good news.
We finally got some weather. The June 19th, it was 48 degrees was the high up here in Lake Forest, Illinois.
Wow.
And I was wearing a stocking cap and gloves teaching golf. But we actually have nice summer weather now, so that's helping the situation a little bit.
No doubt. Shane, I really want to start our time tonight by kind of going back to the beginning of your time in the game of golf. I know your father was also a PGA professional. So was playing and teaching the game always sort of the game plan for you, or did you decide to go down that path a little bit later on in life?
Well, I think like most kids, like when you get involved in the game of golf, you think, boy, I'd like to be on the PGA Tour. Of course, wouldn't everybody? And if we were all as good as Koepka and the rest of the guys, we certainly would do that, but that's a pretty special thing to achieve. So from the time I was in high school, I kind of thought teaching would be kind of where I'd land, you know. And my stepdad is a club pro at a municipal course in Lincoln, Nebraska, and so I was fortunate to kind of have a place to play all the time and be around his assistant pros, who I always looked up to, and just kind of fell in love with it. And truthfully, at the end of the day, I've never really done anything else other than be around this game, and I kind of have no other skills. So I'm fortunate to do what I do.
That's great. And Shane, you spent some time in college at, two pretty good golf programs, Oklahoma State and Methodist College. So how does a kid go from living in Nebraska to going over to Oklahoma State, which I imagine wasn't very popular with the locals there in Nebraska, and then ending up in Methodist over in North Carolina?
Well, I wasn't over at Oklahoma State very long whatsoever. I quickly learned that those guys are really good. And it was interesting. You may not know this with the stuff that you found, but I'm dyslexic. And I had a really difficult time in school. It was horrible for me. And so
wow.
School and I did not jive very well. And so unfortunately I didn't stay long enough at either place to really accomplish much of anything. But it wasn't until I turned pro and found a bunch of mentors to help me that really kind of guided my career along.
And speaking of that, right? I mean, kind of going back to some of the things I talked about in your intro, right? You had the opportunity to study under some pretty darn good instructors, starting with Stan Thirsk. Talk about some of the mentors that you've had and places that you had an opportunity to really hone your skills as a teacher.
It's interesting, I kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, and Stan Thirsk, I was an assistant golf pro at Blue Hills, and Stan Thirsk was good buddies with a guy by the name of Bud Williamson. And he was kind of a Kansas City PGA golf legend, and he was an unbelievable player, Bud was. And those two would hang out, and Stan would come out and give lessons. He'd come out, and I'd say, well, Stan, can I watch you teach? And at the time, I didn't know, but he'd let me watch a few lessons. Then he gave me this book, Swing the Clubhead by Ernest Jones. And I think earlier I alluded to the fact that I'm dyslexic, so I'm praying this book has pictures. But I would watch Stan teach, and I kind of fell in love with his communication, the art of what he did. Like there's two sides of teaching, right? You've got the art of communication, the ability to motivate a student to bring your point across clear, and so it makes sense to that individual the way they need it. And then you've got the other aspect of teaching, which is the technical side of it. And Stan was so good at the communication side of it, making his student feel great. If you got a he had a 30 handicap in front of him. That 30 handicap felt like a tour star when they were done, just because of the experience with Stan, which I always kind of thought was a great way to go about doing things. I was able to work with, I was able to go out and watch Butch Harmon teach. I kept bugging him. I'd send him emails. And finally they allowed me to come out and watch Butch Harmon teach. And he was great. He had that same kind of deal that Stan had, where he was able to, break down any barriers, get the communication working, and then give them high quality information on top of it. I'd go see Hank Haney when I was out in Hilton Head. He was running at the time the IJGA, International Junior Golf Academy. And I'd go out there and I'd watch him teach. And he was nice to me because of my relationship with Jim Hardy. I think Hank worked with or for Jim Hardy for many, many years. And so that kind of opened that door. And being around these guys and watching their ability to kind of diagnose the impact, get the ball flight correct, give the student the right information, and not only give the student the right information, but give it to them the right way, the way that student needs it, to see the success kind of happen pretty darn quick, if not immediately.
So Shane, you become head coach at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. And, kind of going from being the director of instruction, at some of the country clubs around the country to now being a college golf head coach. What was that transition like? What was it like being a part of that program?
It was fantastic. It was interesting. So at the same time I was doing that, I was still at Belfair. So I balanced Belfair and that together at the same time. RAD was great at the time. And brought me in, and we had a program that really hadn't gotten off the ground yet. And the boys team was they were put together. I would call them, they all kind of had a chip on their shoulder a little bit. A lot of them didn't get picked up by a school somewhere, or were at a school kind of like me and couldn't hack it. And it was a second chance sort of thing, and they wanted to prove a point. And so it was, the kids worked so hard, being part of what they did. We've got, I had two kids make it to a U.S. Amateur. I had Reed Howard and John Pannone both play in U.S. Amateurs, and John Pannone went pretty deep in the North-South one year. And from a little school out of the very bottom tip of South Carolina, that was pretty exciting stuff. The girls team did fantastic. We had these kids, and some of them really hadn't played much golf to begin with. We had a girl on the team that was a softball pitcher in high school, and she played golf, but softball was the thing she was really good at. In fact, she set all kinds of state records for South Carolina, and probably could have pitched at a number one division, or any one of the Division I schools in the country that have a softball program, but decided to play golf. So she was a great athlete, and the girls were in our second year, they made it to the national championship. And that was kind of huge, because they worked really, really, really hard to get there. The boys got a lot of credit, for doing well. They succeeded. They won a bunch of tournaments, and I don't think we were ever ranked. I don't think we finished ever worse than about 5th at nationals it was NAIA program with the boys, but for the girls to make it to national championship their second year was just a huge feather in their cap, and probably one of the proudest moments of my teaching career, truthfully.
And Shane, you mentioned Reed Howard quickly. And by the way, Reed Howard is the son of actor and director Ron Howard. So what was it like teaching Reed? And then was Ron ever around the program and get to spend some time with him?
Absolutely. They're a phenomenal family, and they're a very tight family. Reed is a heck of a player. I think he's still trying to play, if I'm correct. But yeah, his dad would come out, his mom would come out. They'd take the team to dinner. They'd hang out with us. It was funny when you go places. Of course, everybody wanted their picture with Opie, right? People would come up to the table, and it was funny. One night we were at a pizza place in Savannah called Benny Van Gogo's. Really great pizza spot if you're anywhere near Savannah area. But people keep coming up and saying, "Oh, Ron Howard, will you take a picture? Will you take a picture?" And I said, gosh, you can't even have your dinner. I said, does that ever bother you? And he said, Shane, they're the reason I have the job I have. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So he was,
yeah, it is.
He was great to the program. Reed was good for our program. He played very well for us. It was nice to have that connection.
And Shane, if you look at the 2010 season and your golf team had a scoring average of 72.66, which was better than, by the way, Oklahoma State's scoring average, and they were ranked number one most of the year, right? Until they lost Augusta State, Patrick Reed in the national championship game. But their stroke average was 73.31. You're at 72.66. You get Coach of the Year. That had to be a pretty special thing for you.
It was a great thing, and you know, it. I think the golf courses that Oklahoma State, the boys at Georgia, and all those big schools are playing were a little more difficult than the ones we were on. But not to knock what our team did, they could really play, and you know, it's because of them that I was able to get the award. I don't know, you know, I don't know without the hard work of those kids that anything that I did would have made a lick of difference. But they worked their tails off, and I'm sure proud of them.
Shane, I had Andy Trainer on a couple of weeks ago, and Andy is a certified level 3 Plain Truth instructor, as is another good friend of the show, Kevin Roman. For our listeners, refresh our memories about Plain Truth methodology and how you apply those principles to your teaching methods.
Well, it's interesting. I've been involved with Jim since 2005, so we're going on some time now. And most people kind of have a misconception, I believe, of what the Plain Truth is. They say, well, Plain Truth, you guys all swing like Matt Kuchar, right? And it's what you teach everyone to do, and what's in those books, that just must be what it is, and that's really not it at all. We've got 3 levels of certification, and I think that I don't mean to speak for any other teaching professionals out there, or any programs that are out there on top of it, but I do believe that it's the best in the business. And we've got 3 levels of certification, levels 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 basically covers our basics, but trains you to start understanding how to depict and be able to detail and nail in on impact and ball flight. What's the ball doing? Why is it doing? What did the club do to cause the ball to do what it did? That sort of thing. Kind of turns you into a human TrackMan, which is what Jim Hardy is, by the way. Kind of turns you into a human TrackMan, but allows you start to understand everything from an impact and ball flight perspective backwards. And then we start getting into kind of 1 and 2 plane stuff, but it's really got very little to do with understanding what 1 and 2 plane golf swings are. It has to do with impact and ball flight, and then being able to do it under fire. So part of our certification program is Chris, if you were joining us, which we ought to have you out to one of these, but if you were joining us,
love to.
What we do is we have students that you've never met, and you've got a process to go through to fix this student. So you're going to do it live while you're being graded. You've never met this student. You don't know anything about them, but you've got to fix their impact and their ball flight. And you get graded and judged by how well that process is communicated and how well that student responds to your information and how much better the impact gets. This is unbelievable. We have a blind, in our level 2, we have a blind ball flight test. So you can't see the golfer, but you can see the ball flight. And we don't teach off the stock 9 ball flights, if you will, because I don't mean this in a bad way, but the truth of the matter is a chunk is a ball flight. It's just not a good one. But it's not listed in the 9, right?
Right.
A shallow top and a steep top. Those are 2 very different ways to top a golf ball, but they're not listed in the 9 ball flights. So we go off 14 different impacts. And that being said, we'll have one of our instructors, usually Chris O'Connell, is hitting shots. And you can't see Chris, but you can just see the ball. So you know where the target line is. And you've got to be able to determine whether it's a heel push or is that a slice. And by the way, the 2 shots sound different. And a heel push looks an awful lot like a slice, but the correction for both of those are so unbelievably different. So as a student of the game, as an instructor to people trying to get better, if you don't know the difference between those 2, if you've got a golfer who's hit heel pushes out to the right, and you go, oh, you're slicing it, you've made them worse.
Wow.
So it's really, really it's really cool to see people go through the process. We've had some unbelievable people go through our programs. Jim McLean has a lot of his instructors go through our level 1 certification. Casey Martin, the golf coach at Oregon, has gone through it. Martin Hall is a level 1. He's gone through the program. Obviously, we've got Kevin at Monterey Peninsula. We've got Bernie Najar at Caves Valley. We've got some really talented people that have gone through the program and had great success. And I think that these are things that they kind of utilize throughout their entire career. And I'll be honest, Jim Hardy is kind of my hero, to say the least. And what he's done for golf, what he's done for me personally, but what he's done for golf and roughly 500 certified instructors across the U.S. and the UK is really give people access to great instruction. That when you go see one of these instructors, you're going to get a quality golf lesson, not one of those golf lessons that says, you're going to get worse before you get better. Or, don't go play golf for 2 weeks, just go to the range. Well, law of averages, you go to the range for 2 straight weeks and don't play golf, you're going to figure out something that works. Doesn't mean that I said anything it's worth a damn. So we don't want that. We don't want that to happen to our students. And so I'm very proud to be part of the Plain Truth. Jim Hardy is not only a dear friend, he's kind of a father figure. And it's a wonderful organization of great people that have very, very little ego. And in this business and in the golf business, or in the world in general, that sometimes is a hard thing to find. And I don't think you'll find a more open-minded, welcoming group of people. They're just wonderful.
Shane, just a couple more before I let you go. And on your website, and for our listeners, ShaneLeBaronGolf.com is the website. You talk about performing under pressure. That I think is something that a lot of us struggle with. Whether it's we're just going out and playing in our member guest tournament, or we're playing in a local event and on up through the different levels of the tour. How do you talk to your students about how to deal with playing pressure?
Well, there's 2 ways to kind of talk about it. You've got the technical, physical side of it, then you've got the mental side. For the mental side of it, I don't think it's good to run away from the stress. In other words, they call your name up to the first tee if it's a big event, if it's a junior event, if it's your club championship, whatever it is that's important to you, when they call your name to the first tee, you feel the thunder. You know how that works. And the idea is that you want to make sure that you don't run away from that feeling, that you want to use it, that you have that feeling because you're capable of actually accomplishing what's in front of you. If you didn't have that feeling, that means you're not very good. And you're not talented enough to achieve what's set out in front of you to begin with. So you want to take that feeling, you want to use it to your benefit on the golf course. The second part of it is the physical aspect, is will it hold up? Will what I do hold up? And if what I'm doing isn't working, am I smart enough with my own golf swing to know why my impact and my ball flight aren't working today, and can I correct it after a swing or two? Versus, and everyone's been there, and I can include myself in this, you finally get to 17 tee box and hit the one you've been looking for all day. Meanwhile, the 16 holes previous are now wasted. You don't want that to happen to a student. Good players can figure it out. They understand their ball flight. And it's our job as instructors to make sure that our players are equipped with the right information to, I don't want to say immediately, but I would love to say the word immediately, correct whatever wrong is going on within reason immediately without having to, chase things around and try to figure it out. Hopefully tomorrow's better sort of business.
Shane, you offer online coaching. Let our listeners know about that, plus how they can also follow you online and on social media as well. You can catch me at LeBaron Golf on Twitter and Instagram. You might see a lot of my dog on Instagram, but you'll catch me on both of those. If you go to ShaneLeBaronGolf.com, you can sign up for online lessons. Oftentimes with my online lessons, years ago I went out to, about 4 years ago, I went out and filmed a bunch of videos over at Callaway at the Performance Center. Really cool place. If you've never been, it's really, really neat. Filmed a bunch of videos with drones, and I kind of thought that the people that were going to sign up for these lessons would be the typical lessons, the guy who's shanking, or the guy that can't make the short putt, or someone who needs more distance, and kind of those basic things. And I filmed all these videos, about 35 of them. Thought this would be cool, and I'll have these online lessons, and I'll send them out. And
And the videos didn't really apply to the people that were contacting me. So literally what I will do now is anyone that signs up, they put their video in, they send me the video, I open it up, I have a look at it, and then I have them call me and we start talking. and so I teach all day. Then when I get home, I see what videos I've got, and then I get on the phone and I talk to those people about their golf swings as I'm looking at their video and they're looking at it. So we just kind of talk about it together. I think it's better than kind of being generic in emails and that sort of thing. Sometimes that stuff doesn't come across right. So that's been the recent change I've made as far as it relates to the online lessons with Shane LeBaron Golf. And I think people like it. You know, they kind of get shocked when I say, give me a call, and I give them my cell phone number, and then I answer when they call. Talk about their swing. And then occasionally I'll video my own video for them and send them a text. And so this is what relates to you. This is why your 3-wood will not get off the deck. This is the issue that you're having, and this is why, and here's what we're going to do to fix it, and here's a drill. I hope you like the video, and then ship that off to them in a text, and we just kind of keep that open communication going, which has really been good. I really kind of enjoy it that way.
Shane, so much more I'd like to get into with you. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime soon. You've been fantastic. I can't thank you enough for your time tonight.
Well, Chris, I appreciate it, and thanks for being good to our Plain Truth guys. I really appreciate what you're doing there, and thanks for promoting golf and being a fan of golf instruction. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you very much. Thank you, Shane. Take care, my friend. I look forward to catching up with you, like I say, again real soon. In between now and then, all the best to you and your family, Shane.
Best to you, Chris. I appreciate it so much. Have a great evening.
All right. Thank you, Shane. You too.
Thank you.
That is Shane LeBaron, Lebaron, Shane LeBaron. And boy, I'll tell you what, folks, so much great content there and so much more to get into with when you're talking about, you know, the instruction that he does and the things that he does with his students and the Plain Truth methodology. And I really love that fact that, you know, how engaged he is with video and with his students. So you don't have to be out, whether it's in Illinois or in Arizona. You can send him a video, and like you said, you know, that I love that. He'll actually answer the phone. He'll give you his cell phone number, and he'll actually answer the phone. So I think it's a great thing. Please go online. ShaneLeBaronGolf.com is his website. Go on there, check that out. Sign up for those video lessons. I think you're going to be amazed at the great things that he's going to be able to do to help you with your game. All right, before I get to my next guest, Russ Holden, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Positive Vibes Golf. Please, folks, go online and check them out at PositiveVibesGolf.com. Give them a follow on Twitter at PVibesGolf. Their head covers and putter covers are a very unique way to keep your mind focused on positive thoughts. When you're out on the golf course, it's a great training aid because it gets you refocused to remember what you're doing out there anyway, right? Which is having fun, being outdoors, being with your friends or family, right? It really kind of gets you back to if you've made a bad swing or whatever, to remember to have fun, put positive thoughts back in your mind, and enjoy today. Again, PositiveVibesGolf.com, and give them a follow on Twitter at PVibesGolf. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Golf Pride. In golf, light grip pressure releases power. Golf Pride engineered a secret that pros know. A larger lower hand encourages lighter pressure. Plus 4 technology is designed with 4 additional layers, which reduces tension in the lower hand to generate more power. Play Plus 4 and release the secret pros know. Now available on Tour Velvet, the winningest grip on tour. Grip confidence, grip Golf Pride. And this segment of the show is sponsored by our friends over at 2 Under. I want to remind you about our friends over at 2 Under, men's performance briefs, the unofficial underwear of the PGA Tour. Worn by PGA Tour players like Ricky Fowler, David Toms, Jerry Kelly, William McGirt, Jason Kokrak, and Matt Everett, to name just a few. Your buddies are going to think you're a stud if they're even seeing you in your underwear, which is another story. And your girlfriend and her wife is going to love the side effects, a visibly enhanced profile. The Joey Pouch technology provides the ultimate male asset management. It separates a man's most valuable assets from bodily contact to reduce unwanted skin-on-skin contact, providing less chafing, more control, and an altogether more luxurious feel. Start every round 2 Under by wearing the coolest performance briefs on the market. Use code ONTHET20 to save 20% off your order at 2under.com. And that's the number 2, UNDR.com. All right, now back in making his 6th appearance with me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is Russ Holden. You've heard me talk about for years about the wonderful work that Russ does with his organization, Caddy for a Cure, which helps provide not only opportunities for our wounded service members to be caddies for a day with some of the top some of the top players on both the PGA and LPGA tours, but also gives the gift of, life-changing events like houses for one of those service members that we happen to have the wonderful privilege to have on the show with us a couple of years ago, and we'll revisit that story here in a minute. Russ is also a Class A PGA professional and was the head golf professional at Woodfield Country Club in Boca Raton, Florida. He was there when he met Bernard Langer and became his caddy from time to time from 1991 to 2006. Russ also served as the caddy captain for the 2004 European Ryder Cup team. Going back to his college days, he played golf at Malone University, and he was an NAIA All-American back in 1980. He was named All-Mid-Ohio Conference in 80 and 81. He was the Mid-Ohio Conference MVP in 1981, and he was inducted into the Malone University Hall of Fame in 1994. He's a wonderful friend of the show, and very excited he is back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Russ, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good evening, Chris. It's wonderful to be with you again. I did not realize this was our 6th time. How time flies, and always great to be with you. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Russ. So before we get started talking about all the really great things that you're doing with Caddy for a Cure, I want to start by, your daughter is a heck of a junior player. What a great swing she has. How are things going with Kayla?
Things are going fantastic. As you may know, she's committed to play golf for the University of Tennessee, Go Vols, and she'll be starting up there next year, 2020. She's got one more year to go here as her senior year commences in just a couple of weeks. But it's been a fun journey watching her, both as a golf professional and her coach, and as her dad. A few gray hairs here and there as her dad, but it's all part of the process and all been good, and it's been great to watch her grow into a really excellent player. I'll tell you what, it's don't tell anybody, but it's any day now that it's going to be really tough for me to continue to keep beating her. She's getting real close to being able to beat old dad right now.
That's got to be tough for you, right? I mean, your coach and dad. Right? I imagine it's got to be awfully tough for you when you're watching her out on the golf course. And I know you caddy for her from time to time and that sort of thing, but I'm guessing you're, just like any dad, you're living and dying with every shot. How do you separate the emotion of dad from coach?
I haven't figured that one out yet. If you have a good answer for me, I'd be open for suggestions. It's always about her, and her attitude is so good. She tries really hard, and she's been a real trooper to work on all the things. She's a lover of the golf swing. She likes the game. She loves the golf swing. She likes studying the golf swing, and that's all she does is watch golf swing after golf swing, and she's really pretty sharp. She's actually a heck of a teacher in her own right. I love it when she has a look at me and offers suggestions to me, but when she's out there on the golf course, I know she's trying her hardest, and that's all you can do is just root for her. And then we've had work there, both from her, going to some professionals in that industry, as well as for me as a dad to know when the right time is to do a debrief after a round is over, and that's been a learning experience for me to be able to be the coach and want to sit down and do a debrief, do a factual Blue Angel style debrief on what happened, and then there's dad, and it's a little girl who's got a soft heart, and being able to address those things in time. So that's been a learning process for us, and we're actually doing quite well with it now.
So Russ, switching gears a little bit, and it's been a little while since I got to have you on the show. Catch us up. What's been going on with you and Caddy for a Cure so far this year?
We're having a great year, and we got our biggest time of the year is actually coming up with the playoffs coming up. We got the Northern Trust next week. We've got John Rahm, Tommy Fleetwood, Paul Casey, possibly one other, and then the week after we've got quite a lineup. We've got Brooks Koepka, Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas, and Jordan Spieth all going to participate with us. We've got several wounded service members that are going to be out there with us and escorting some of our civilians who've made very plentiful donations to the multiple charities that we support. And hey, it's the playoffs, so we're looking forward to it. To have the number one player in the world participating with us again is just great. And Jordan Spieth and his wonderful team to be able to step up. And Ricky Fowler is one of our biggest fans and supporters. He's been just fantastic to us. And, I think it's really a testimony to how patriotic and how appreciative the PGA Tour and the PGA Tour players are to military-type initiatives like us. And, we've been doing this now for 16 years, and it just never ceases to amaze me how these men and women will give up their day and bring someone inside the ropes like Chris and treat you to a really good time. Really looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
And Russ, for a listener who is not familiar yet with what Caddy for a Cure does, talk about the experience that you provide to our wounded service veterans, and then for the person that actually goes online and bids for the opportunity to be Caddy for a day.
Well, just to back up just a little bit, Chris, on how this all really came about, as you mentioned earlier, I was serving as the head professional at Woodfield Country Club here in Boca Raton, and one of the residents there happens to be a World Golf Hall of Fame member and two-time Masters champion Bernhard Langer, and we met and became good friends back in the mid-'80s. That continues on even till today, and he asked me to come out and caddy for him as a fill-in basis back in the early 90s, and I loved it. I was like as you mentioned, I had a fairly successful amateur career, and I thought I could play for a living, and I decided I'd like to eat on a regular basis, and it wasn't going to allow me to do that for playing for 3 years, so I wisely went into being a club pro. But while I was serving at Woodfield Country Club, I was touched by a rare bone marrow disorder called Fanconi anemia. One of my assistants had 2 children that were like family to us that were suffering from this lethal disease, and we wanted to do something about it. I didn't really have an idea what I was going to do, but when I started caddying for Bernhard, like I said, I was a kid in a candy store. I was having the greatest time, of my golf life, being able to rub shoulders with Seve Ballesteros and Greg Norman and Jack Nicklaus and all the great players of that day. And we had an idea in 2001 when Bernhard asked me to come caddy full-time to, what would happen if Chris Mascaro would want to come inside the ropes and be able to caddy for a day. And we went and laid down a business plan for the tour, and they gave us a short leash and a thumbs up that first year, and it was a huge success. We had guys like Bernhard and Tom Lehman and Paul Azinger and Fred Couples and a bunch of big names, kind of wrapped their arms around us and said, we like what you're doing, and we're going to help you out here a little bit, and got us off to a real good kickstart. And here we are 16 years later offering the experience for any of your listeners to be able to come inside the ropes and caddy for a day with one of the world's greatest players. We support many charities. We're aligned with Birdies for the Brave, which is a military outreach of the PGA Tour started by Phil and Amy Mickelson back in 2005. We also help out the host site charity, so a little mini United Way, if you will, in a way, to help local charities at each tour stop that we go to, as well as the Fanconi Anemia Research Fund, among various other charities of the Player's Choice and some other ones. But it's really cool. You get to go inside the ropes. We treat you to a inside the tour look at the world of golf, and you get to be a partner for the day with one of the world's greatest players. And then, as you mentioned, we added the military initiative in 2007, and now for 12 years have been offering gratis that opportunity for the wounded service member to come and escort you. We take care of everything for them. We take care of their trip, fly them in, put them up, and really treat them to golf at its absolute highest levels. And our impetus is that if the service member already plays golf and they get introduced to it at the highest levels, hopefully it spurs them on to play even more. And if we get a service member that doesn't play golf or is new to the game, hopefully introducing them again to the highest levels of golf will spur them on to play a little bit more golf. And we found that it's been immensely successful. It's a golf fantasy, really, for them. And really, it's just the beginning of our relationship with them. We've had hundreds and hundreds of wounded service members come through our program now, And the caddy experience is really just the beginning. We stay in touch with them. We have an online golf academy that I've used my vast teaching experience to be able to do that. We call it Operation Warrior Golf, and they're able to, through the V1 Golf Academy, which has so graciously given us access to this app, that they can take a video of their golf swing from anywhere. As you mentioned, we do some other big events. We have our annual event in January where we bring a bunch of them in for that, and then we have teaching seminars all during the year. But the biggest thing is just us being in a position to use golf, to wrap our arms around them, and we know what the therapeutic effects have been on the game, and we've been really humbled and blessed to be able to be in this position to offer it to them.
And Russ, it was exciting because a couple of years ago, we got to speak with you and Marine veteran Lyndon Ortiz, who you helped gift a mortgage-free house to through Caddy for a Cure and some of the other partners that you're working with. Remind our listeners about that and the great work that you do beyond the Caddy opportunity for some of our wounded service veterans.
Yeah, that's really probably one of the highlights, and even to this day, Lyndon is a very close personal friend, and we check in on Lyndon all the time, and his two little girls and lovely wife are, loving their home that they have in Orlando, Florida, and it's really something to know how we were able to use caddying and something that I really never in my wildest dreams ever imagined that I would do. I'd done everything in the golf business. You name it. I was bag boy, I was shop boy, I was merchandiser, I was, pick the range. I did everything in the world of golf. I'd never caddied. And it's so ironic that now we use caddying and the experience that I had with Bernhard to be able to be in this position. But the most important thing is that family, the Ortiz family, now is mortgage-free, safe, and sound in that home in Orlando. And to watch those little girls know that they have a safe place. It's right next to their elementary school where they go to school, and to watch the home be styled in their fashion and know that they can get up every day and know that they have a safe place. And it's just been awesome. We've visited them and we've been to the house many times, and to see them in their environment, they send pictures all the time of changes that they make to the house and everything like that. And the next year we gave away a service dog to First Sergeant Randy Nance, who's a wounded Green Beret, and we know that service dog has changed Randy's life. He is in a position right now, an amputee, gave his leg and had some other fairly substantial injuries, and his whole life changed when he got the most beautiful dog, Eleanor, from Positive Action in Orlando that we were able to be a part of and coordinated, and things like that just don't really ever go away. Those are things that both the Ortiz family and Nance family will now have for the rest of their lives.
So Russ, I got to imagine there are a lot of rewarding stories when you're talking to the veterans and a part of those events, whether it's on the golf course or things that you've done obviously away from the golf course. What are some of the heartwarming stories that those veterans have told you about the impact that Caddy for a Cure has had on them?
Well, the one that comes to mind, we've had two, but one of them that comes to mind was we had an experience in Memphis, ironically, last week was the Memphis St. Jude FedEx tournament. But we had a young man that came in, and lovely young man, and this was early on in the days that we started the military thing. We do things a little bit differently now, where really as a result of this one, that we really kind of command the bio and the background on every one of our wounded service members. But he came in and had a great time. It was hot. And he spent his time, and it was just another Caddy for a Cure experience that we love doing, and we did everything that we normally do. We didn't do anything more or anything less than we do for any other wounded service member, but he stayed with me, and in the middle of the night I had to get up and make a pit stop, and I was fumbling around in the hotel room, and out of the blue the voice came up and said, "Go ahead, turn the light on, if you need to get in there," and it scared the daylights out of me. And I asked him, I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just laying here." I said, "Well, why aren't you sleeping?" He said, "Well, I don't sleep." He said, "It's part of my problem with my PTS and my TBI, my traumatic brain injury, that my brain really doesn't ever shut down, and I just don't like taking the sleeping pills, so I won't sleep for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. And It just stunned me. It just absolutely stunned me. So I knew there was some pretty serious stuff going on, but he was so nice and so wonderful that I really didn't think anything of it. And we had Lee Westwood was our tour player, and he's just a delightful guy. And Billy Foster was on the bag, and they treated him to a great time. And we had our civilian, and it's time to say goodbye. And he was local, and I didn't know this until I learned it after the fact. But Lee thought so much of him that this was in the old days when the Memphis tournament was right before the U.S. Open. He invited the service member back and cleaned out his locker, gave everything, because the major championship was the next week. He was going to get a whole new wardrobe and everything, and he said, bring your truck. And he basically filled him up with sweaters and hats and shirts and golf bags and balls and gloves and everything that he had with him. He basically gave it to the young man. And the chilling part of the whole thing was that this was, when he came to do it, he had basically made up his mind that this was the last thing that he was going to do. He was having a real hard time with life. He wanted to check out, and he was going to do this, and he had made plans to take his life on the way home. As a matter of fact, he was just going to, he had said goodbye to his family. He's got a wife and some lovely children, and it was so touched by how the people in the world of golf and on the PGA Tour, the players, the caddies, the volunteers, the people with Caddy for a Cure, the civilian, that he was so overwhelmed that he had never seen anything like this in his life, that how people could be so embracing to him, and it changed his life. And obviously he went back on Sunday and brought his wife back with him, and it saved his life. He later told us that the suicide was what he had on his mind, and it was really chilling to me to know that we had been handed that baton, not knowing that the baton was in our hand, and that this was what we'd been able to do. So we know that golf is therapeutic. We know that golf works. We know that golf is great. All of our listeners who are golfers, all will say a hearty amen to that there's really not much to it. Whether you play great or you don't play so well, being out on green grass, chasing a little white golf ball around with blue skies and all the intricacies that golf offers, it really is special, and it really does make a big difference in some of these men and women who raise their right hand for us to be able to have the freedoms and liberties that we enjoy today.
Wow. What an amazing story. I mean, you talked about, a chilling story, but boy, that has got to be one of the greatest things that anyone could say to you about what impact you're having on their lives. You literally saved a man's life and gave him hope and a reason to live, more reason to live on top of, obviously his wife and his children, but that restored his hope. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm stunned by it. This happened quite a while ago, many years ago, and we're still very close to the young man and his family. And he went on to play a lot of golf, and actually has some real big things that he's doing now in his life. And we're just thrilled with that. And we had another situation that wasn't quite as stark, but it was the same net result. And the staggering statistic that's out there, that's I think it's 20 to 22 service members a day take their own life, and that's just an incredible tragedy that is happening in our country right now. That these are true heroes that again raise their right hand for us to be able to sit here and to allow that to happen. Is mind-boggling. I don't know of anybody that I've ever spoken to that isn't just absolutely stunned by that statistic, and we need to do more. And as a PGA member now, a life member of the PGA of America, the work that PGA Hope is doing, getting veterans into the game, organizations like Caddy for a Cure, and there's so many great military initiatives out there that do so much. But we're especially fond of anything that can get somebody out playing golf, because it allows them to put away whatever it is that's bothering them, the nightmares and the emotional trauma and the flashbacks. And we've seen it. We've seen it firsthand. We see it every week that when they get out there, it's not permanent, but hey, it's something that I've seen it through the lens of the camera that when I'm taking pictures, and I've seen it in the smiles, when we're having dinner and we're meeting the best players in the world, we're on the range or we're in the equipment trailer, that all is forgotten for that period of time that they're there. And hopefully that'll, like I said, it'll spur them on to get more involved in the game and hopefully be a respite for them.
Russ, I want to switch gears just for a moment, and I want to talk a little bit about Bernhard Langer, because I got to get your insights, because the guy just continues to dominate on the Champions Tour. I mean, he's a few weeks shy of his 62nd birthday, yet he keeps, you think maybe this is going to be the year he slows down, and then he wins early in the season, and he goes out and shoots 66 on Sunday and wins his 4th Senior Open championship. The guy's absolutely incredible. How does he keep doing it?
I think he's the ultimate competitor. I mean, if you really took a hard look at his life, he grew up in a small town called Anhausen, just about an hour west outside of Augsburg, in Germany. And here's a guy that's riding a bike 6 miles through the woods and through the forest to get to a 9-hole course to caddy to make 10 cents. To have him come from that background and that environment, my daughter, as you mentioned, playing junior golf with everything that these juniors have available to them today with TrackMans and great golf courses and equipment and conditions and everything that they get to enjoy. You look at a guy like Bernhard, diminutive in size, and to come all the way where he's come, it's really got to be one of the greatest stories in the history of sport. I'm not sure there's been too many success stories that are like this, but he's got the ultimate competitor's heart. I'll tell you a quick story, a funny story. We were in Germany many years ago, and they were having a Mercedes championship there that was his tournament, and they took us over to the racetrack in Stuttgart to drive the Mercedes, and we had professional drivers there teaching us, and teachers, whatnot, teaching us how to do, maneuvers on the racetrack and in driving circumstances and things like that. And we spent all day. There was maybe a dozen players and some caddies and things like that. And at the end, we got all done, and there was 4 or 5, 6 tests that you had to do, and it was, had a little competition. So we all got to do it, and they timed you, and they did everything, and lo and behold, Bernhard won. And they give him this gold tire. It was a big tire and was all wrapped with gold foil and everything. It had a ribbon around it and everything. And kind of a cool little deal for winning the thing. And, I didn't really think much of it and said, wow, that's really something. Bernhard, he's quite a competitor. And he took the tire and, we put it in the car and we went and played, and we went back to his house after the tournament. And as we were unpacking everything, he asked me if I'd take the tire and put it downstairs down in the basement of his house. So I went down there and I turned the light on, and there was about 12 or 13 other gold tires down there. And I said, you son of a gun, no wonder you won the test over there. It's about the 13th tire that he'd won. He'd been doing all those things every year. That was pretty interesting. But, it's kind of a lighthearted story as to what a competitor he is, whether you're playing him at ping pong, whether you're out on a football field playing a little soccer, no matter what it is, he is the ultimate competitor. And I tell people all the time, you wouldn't want to get in a fist fight with that guy. He will figure out a way how to beat you. And he is the ultimate competitor. I don't see him slowing down, Chris. People ask me all the time. I think Bernhard's got another 2, 3, 4, 5 years in him. It wouldn't shock me at all if he was winning when he's 66, 67 years old.
Wow. And Russ, when you were on the bag for him, did he have expectations for you as a caddy? What did he want from you as his caddy?
Well, I was a little bit of an anomaly for him because he and Pete Coleman, he's got a great caddy now, Terry Holt is out there right now on his bag, and Terry is a really hard worker, a wonderful young man who's an Englishman and somewhat quiet, but he works harder than really as any caddy out there, just doing yardages and everything like that. And when I came in, I had a little different personality. I love to tell jokes, and I love to have a little bit more fun, and I'm probably a little bit more lighthearted. Pete Coleman was, again, the ultimate hard worker and did everything that Bernhard wanted. So I filled in a kind of a different position where I was his secondary coach, as well as we were really good buddies. We were good friends, and it was a unique, fresh experience for Bernhard to have me on the bag, because I was always the one telling jokes and having fun with the other players, and that was a little bit different for him. But he's an incredibly demanding guy. I think I saw a stat the other day where just 0.4 of a shot per day would be the difference between almost $1.5 million on last year's tour stats. If someone could increase their percentages. So Bernhard used to look on the fact of how could he save a quarter to a half a shot a day. What could we do at the beginning of the week? What could we learn that nobody else learned about a fairway and the way a green, somewhere, something out there that we could learn how to play a hole just that much better than everybody else, or by laying up or by just knowing where you could miss it and where you couldn't miss it. Bernhard's out there looking for a quarter shot a day, and I think one of the reasons that he does as well as he does right now, while all of them are competitors out there and they all want to win, I think Bernhard goes the extra mile and then some and does just more work. And along with Terry right now, they work really, really, really hard. I think they outwork pretty much everybody else out there.
Russ, before I let you go, for our wounded veterans that are out there listening to the show tonight and could really benefit from what you're doing, their families also listening in, how can they get in touch with you and be a part of what you're doing for Caddy for a Cure?
Oh, it's great. That's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you all for your service. We really, really sincerely do appreciate it. And we have a great site, caddyforacure.com, and we spell it with a Y, CADDYFORACURE, caddyforacure.com. Just go there and you can learn all about the charities that we support. You can see a bunch of testimonies from people that we've had through the 16 years of our existence, and there's a contact form in there. Simply fill it out, tell me a little bit about yourself, and I'll reach back out to you, and we'll start the process to be able to find a place and a player and a week that would work for everybody, and we'll look forward to trying to get you on the bag somewhere and get you into the Caddy for a Cure family, as we like to say.
And Russ, how can our listeners follow you and Caddy for a Cure, not only on your website, but over social media as well?
Yeah, we're on Facebook, the CFAC fan page, and then we're on Twitter, obviously, Caddy for a Cure, at Caddy for a Cure, Instagram, at Caddy for a Cure, and we post some inspirational things and information about all the events that we have coming up. We try to stay on top of that, and we love having our fans reach out to us and talk to us, but we rather than blab and talk all about it, which, as you can see, I can do quite well, those Facebook pages that go into the other social media platforms really tell a great story. Some of the pictures that we've been able to acquire and accomplish through the years really say it all. One picture really does say 1,000 words, and we're just really humbled and honored to be able to be in this position, to be able to have offered it, and the PGA Tour has just been so supportive of what we do over the years, and just our hats are off and just completely grateful for their support over the last 16 years.
Well, Russ, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night and being very generous with that time tonight. I always love getting to spend time with you. You're so inspirational, and the great things that you guys continue to do there at Caddy for a Cure is just absolutely unbelievable for the impact you've had and continue to have on our wounded service members. And boy, that story was just absolutely, as you said, chilling to hear, but also very gratifying to hear, to think of the wonderful impact that you're having on people's lives. So thank you for coming on and sharing those stories again tonight.
It is 100% our pleasure. Anytime we get the chance to tell the story about Fanconi anemia and the wounded service members and the brave men and women that do so much for us, it's our complete honor. I'll do it anytime, night or day. And Chris, always a pleasure to be with you. You're doing a great job on this show. I listen to it all the time, and I can't wait for the next show when I'm not on it, so I'll listen to the whole thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Russ. I appreciate that very much, and look forward to having you back on the show again soon. All the best to you, Kayla, and the rest of your family. It's an extreme pleasure.
Cheers. Thanks, Chris.
See you, Russ. That is Russ Holden, and again, Caddy for a Cure, CADDYFORACURE is the name of the organization. Go online, caddyforacure.com, and check out the wonderful opportunities. And he mentioned the players that they've had, and boy, they get the best players on tour to come out and be a part of the program, because it's a wonderful cause, right? B, it's an enjoyment for them to give back as well. Again, Ricky Fowler, Zach Johnson, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Thomas, Billy Horschel. He talked about Jordan Spieth and some of the others that they've had on as well. So when you go out there and you bid to be a caddy for a day for them, you're gonna be with the greatest players in the game of golf. Brooks Koepka you mentioned as well. So do yourself a favor, do a service member a favor. Go out there and take a look at their site, see who they've got and what events they've got coming up, and go bid and be a part of a wonderful cause doing great things. Saved a service member's life. How rewarding is that? How great a story is that? Boy, I warms my heart just hearing about it, let alone what Russ has done. All right, folks, it's time for me to put a bow on this edition of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks go out again to Jason Hase, Shane LeBaron, and Russ Holden for joining me. Please check out our website, nextonthetee.net. Keep track of who our guest schedule is and when they'll be joining me. Please also check out the show. We're available on so many podcasting sites and great partners like Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audio Boom, Player.fm, a wonderful newer site, LaunchpadDM.com, also supporting us. And please go out on, if you can, go to that site, hit the subscribe button for us. We'd really appreciate that very much. Please give me your thoughts. Check us out on our Facebook page, Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro. You can, share a comment. If you got a question for one of our future guests or someone who's already been on the show, we'll be glad to get that question answered for you. Again, you can check out our complete guest schedule by going on our website, nextonthetee.net. Folks, I can't thank you enough for continuing to make us a part of your golfing content. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA pros and top instructors and media members go to tell their stories. Join us the same time every Tuesday